Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining for the webinar today. Over to you, Chandni.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone. I'll just share my
Good evening,
slides. Just give
everyone.
me a minute.
Thank you all for joining for the webinar today. Over to you, Chandni.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone. I'll just share. I
Good
hope my
evening,
slides
everyone.
are visible.
Thank you all for joining for the webinar today.
Okay.
Over to you, Chandni.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you
I'm
so much,
Chandni
Himanshu.
Sahgal, a
Good evening,
nutritionist
everyone.
at DrTrust
I'll just
360.
share.
I
I
Good
hope my
evening,
slides
everyone.
are visible. Today, I'll be talking to all of you about mindful
Thank
eating
you all
and
for
how it
joining for
can
the
be a
webinar today.
useful strategy to
Over to you,
help you
Chandni.
lose Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you
I'm
so much,
Chandni
Himanshu.
Sahgal, a
Good evening,
nutritionist
everyone.
at DrTrust
I'll just
360.
share.
Good
I hope
evening,
my slides are
everyone.
visible. Today, I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating.
Thank you all
And
for
how it
joining for
can
the
be a
webinar today.
useful strategy to
Over to you,
help you
Chandni.
lose. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust
I have
360.
Good evening, everyone.
Today I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating
Thank you all
and
for
how it
joining for
can
the
be a
webinar today.
useful strategy to
Over to you,
help you
Chandni.
lose. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust
Good
360.
evening, everyone.
Today I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating
Thank you all for joining for the
and
webinar today.
useful strategies to
Over to you,
help you
Chandni.
lose. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust
Good
360.
evening, everyone.
Today I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating
Thank you all for joining for the
and
webinar today.
useful strategies to
Over to you, Chandni.
hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust
Good
360.
evening, everyone.
Today I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating
Thank you all for joining for the
and
webinar today.
useful strategies
Over to you, Chandni.
hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust
Good
360.
evening, everyone.
Today I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating.
Thank you all for joining for the webinar.
Right? So when we are hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust 360.
Good evening, everyone.
I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating.
Thank you all for joining for the webinar.
Which is mindless eating.
Chandni.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust 360.
Good evening, everyone.
I'll be talking to all of you about mindful eating.
Thank you all for joining for the webinar.
Which is mindless eating.
Chandni.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Good evening, everyone.
At DrTrust 360.
If we are trying to lose weight, this is one of the most, I would say, practical ways of trying to lose weight rather than losing our minds over trying to lose our weight. So moving on, I'll be talking about what are these strategies. How can we use these concepts of mindful eating to lose weight? And there are these 12 strategies I've put down, which if we follow in our daily lives, if we follow in routine, we'll be able to very automatically lose weight and not have to be hassled about shedding those extra kilos. So the first tip actually to losing weight is not to skip breakfast. When I say not to skip breakfast, it's not just breakfast. Rather, I would say not to skip any meal, because when we skip a meal, we might feel that we are starving ourselves or we are consuming lesser calories, but what we are also missing out on is essential nutrients, because apart from the calories, a meal also comprises of essential nutrients like the micronutrients which it comprises of. So we end up not consuming those as well, and in the bargain what happens is eventually through the day we end up snacking a lot more. So the hunger cravings, because we've deprived ourselves of food, is much more. So though you might skip your breakfast, what eventually might end up happening is during the midday you might be ravenous and you might end up eating an unhealthy snack, right? So the first tip, like I said, is not to skip breakfast, which is the most important start to your day, which is the fuel for your body. And moving on, not missing any meal, not just breakfast, but not skipping any meal, which is the second tip, which talks about having meals regularly. So when I say having meals regularly, means you could be having 3 meals in a day, or you could be having 4 meals in a day. It depends on individual body type, how hungry you feel throughout the day, how your body responds, how much food it needs at different times of the day. So it is absolutely okay to have 3 meals or 6 meals or 4 meals throughout the day, but it is very important to have these meals at regular times, because if we skip meals or if we don't have meals at stipulated times, there is insulin resistance, and our insulin levels fluctuate, and also the metabolic processes do not function at a regulated speed, right? So when we are eating regularly throughout the day, we tend to burn calories at a faster rate. And also, like I mentioned previously, when we don't skip a meal, or we don't eat at irregular times, it reduces the temptation to snack on unhealthy foods, which are usually high in fat and sugar. Because when we skip a meal or we eat at irregular timings, our blood sugar levels fall, and because of that we feel very hungry, and we tend to look out for foods which are high in fat and sugar, which all of us, I'm sure, are aware that are unhealthy for us. The third tip, of course, is eating a lot of fruit and vegetables. Now, why this is essential? So, despite the fact that most of us know that fruits and vegetables are good for health, it is quite alarming that most of us do not consume the amount of fruits and vegetables that we should have in a day. So WHO, which is the World Health Organization, it recommends that every individual should have at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables in a day. So that means we should have 5 different colored fruits and vegetables in a day. And I would like all of you to put in the chat box, how many of you actually have 5 different servings of fruits and vegetables. So one serving is usually about 100 grams or one whole fruit or vegetable, and it could be in different forms like salads, in the form of fruit chaat or a whole fruit, or in the form of a vegetable you are having. Now, why this is essential to maintaining, or when we are trying to lose weight, is because fruits and vegetables are generally low in calories, unless, of course, you're having high calorie fruits and vegetables. But there are no such high calorie fruits. They are just more sweet, and they have higher level of fructose, like bananas and mangoes, or they have a higher glycemic index. But generally, as compared to other cooked foods, fruits and vegetables are lower in calories and in fat as well. The fat content is low. So it is actually the best food to have when we are trying to lose weight. Apart from that, fruits and vegetables also are high in fiber. Now, fiber has a dual role to play, which I will be explaining in consecutive slide as well. First and foremost, of course, it adds to the bulk in the diet, right? So we feel satiated for longer. That means that if you've had a fruit, you will not feel hungry quickly. Or if you have salad before beginning your meal, you will not feel hungry easily, right? It will keep your stomach full for a longer period of time. And that is why when we are trying to lose weight, or we are trying to maintain weight, or lead a healthy lifestyle, it's very important to incorporate fruits and vegetables in a daily diet. Apart from this, of course, they are a rich source of antioxidants. Fruits like oranges have vitamin C. All the other fruits, blackberries, blueberries, all your berries have antioxidants which help us basically in fighting infections. So they are a rich treasure trove of micronutrients, and it's very essential to consume these as a part of our daily diet, whether we are trying to lose weight or not. The fourth tip that you can use to lose weight, and how mindfully doing it, is to get more active. So basically, physically being more active, and it does not have to be in a structured manner only, which is you don't necessarily just have to go to the gym or have some form of enrollment in some physical fitness center. It means generally also being active, so moving around more, right? Not sitting, not being sedentary, because I'm sure all of you must have heard this phrase that sitting is the new smoking, right? So it increases the chances of your metabolic diseases like, you know, diabetes, heart attack, stroke. And apart from that, also why it is very essential to be physically active is because no matter how less we eat, if we don't expend the energy that we are consuming by the way of being physically active, we will not be able to burn off the excess calories that we have stored, right? So there is something known as energy equilibrium. So the calories that I consume and the calories I expend, so they, if they are in equal amounts, which means if I'm eating the same amount of calories as I'm burning, I'll be maintaining weight. Whereas if I eat less calories and burn more calories by the way of being physically active, then I will be on the trend of losing weight. So that is why it's so important to be physically active, to move around more, to sit less. And also, like I said, it is not that you have to engage in some form of activity which is boring. You need to find which activity suits you, or which activity you can sustain on a regular basis. It could be Zumba, it could be Pilates, yoga, running, swimming, any kind of physical activity that you enjoy doing, or even putting on music in your own house and dancing to it, is a form of being physically more active. So um, we need to find an activity that we enjoy and be able to do it on a regular basis. The fifth tip, of course, it's very essential, and most of us, tend to not follow it, is to drink a lot of water. A lot of times when we talk about nutrition, we tend to not take into consideration that water is an essential element, and almost 60 to 65% of our body is made up of water. And a lot of times, when we are actually thirsty, we end up confusing those cues for hunger, and we might end up eating when we are actually really just in the need of glass of a in the need for a glass of water. So and again, the requirements for water are different for individuals depending on the kind of physical activity you are doing, the amount of sweating that is happening by the way of physical activity. But generally, it's recommended that each adult consumes up to 2 to 3 liters of water on a daily basis. And if you're exercising or you're out in the sun more, then you need to consume a little more than what is required. Again, coming back to fiber, which I already spoke about when we were talking about consuming more fruits and vegetables for losing weight, is eating foods that are high in fiber. So like I explained earlier, fiber has this property which it keeps you satiated for longer. So if you're full for longer, if you don't feel the need to eat, after you've had, something that is full of fiber, then it's a very good strategy, to keep your calorie count in check and thus maintaining or losing weight. So that is why fibrous foods are recommended. And which are the foods which are high in fiber generally are whole grains. So when I say whole grains, it is your whole wheat. Maida is refined wheat flour, and it does not have fiber, right? So we always say have whole wheat flour or have a multigrain chapati. Your millets, oats, all these are fibrous fruits. All your whole pulses rather than uh, pulses which are washed. So your chana, rajma, all these are foods which are high in fiber. Of course, apart from the fact that fruits and vegetables are high in fiber, all these foods should be consumed when you're trying to lose weight, rather than having foods which are simple carbohydrates, or rather which are not rich in fiber, like I said, maida or refined wheat flour. So it keeps you satiated for longer, and it also has cholesterol lowering properties. So if anybody is suffering from problems like hypertension, or even for that matter of fact, when we give planned diabetes diets, we plan foods which are high in fiber, because like I said, it has a dual role. A, it keeps you satiated for longer, and it has cholesterol sequestering properties as well. Now, this tip is one of my favorites and most important, and I feel there is a lot of education required around this. Is reading food labels. So again, I want you all to answer this question and put in the chat box. How many of you actually read food labels when you go to the grocery stores or are buying some food product for consumption or compare to food products? So this is something which is very essential. Nowadays, FSSAI is also coming up with regulations where they'll be putting, yellow, red, orange tags depending on whether the foods are high in calories, sugars, or fats, and that tagging will be done how it's done in Western countries. But coming back to the point, why reading food labels is so important. Now, um, when we look at a food label, we come to know the amount of calories it has. And this, I'm sure all of you are aware, that is one of the most important factors when we are trying to keep our weight in check, right? So we need to shun away foods which are high in calories. What are the red flags? What are the kind of nutritional composition we need to look out for when we are reading food labels is, of course, the calories, the amount of fat, the amount of sodium, because high sodium is not good. It can lead to hypertension, and the amount of sugar, right? If, of course, if it has high fiber, high vitamin A, high vitamin C, it's really good for you. But most of the processed foods would not have that unless uh, they have been added to that particular food. So most of our processed foods, of packaged foods, would be high in calories, high in fat, high in sodium, high in sugar, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here is not to stop having packaged foods, but try to make more mindful choices, right? So if we are, for example, we have these different flavored yogurts that we get. So there are different brands. I would not like to name any of them, but whenever we are picking up those yogurts, can we just flip back and look at the nutritional label and see which one has more sugar in the same quantity, in the same 30-gram pack, which one is offering more sugar and more carbohydrates and more calories? So that way I make a smarter choice and I shun the one which has more sugar and more carbohydrates or more calories or more sodium. And of course, it's not applicable to sodium, is not applicable to the case of yogurt. But generally speaking, choosing the healthier alternative from the two is what is the point I'm trying to make. That is what happens when we read labels. So it is very essential to start reading labels, to be aware of what is the kind of food that we are putting in our mouths. So also another thing that when I read labels, what it helps me do is that if I have a stipulated calorie allowance, for example, if I'm trying to lose weight and I'm supposed to consume only 1400 kilocalories in a day, I will be able to see if that particular packaged food fits, you know, in my daily dietary allowance. So that is another reason why we should really be reading food labels. Now, tip 8 is something very interesting, which is again, I'll be going back, and this has been borrowed from Dr. Brian Wonsick. Like I said, he's an eating behavior expert, or rather a food psychologist in US. And one of the strategies that he devised was that, using smaller cutlery. So, for example, using smaller plates, using, smaller glasses, smaller spoons. These kind of strategies very automatically help us, eating smaller portion sizes without us realizing. So when I use a bigger bowl, I automatically, have a tendency to fill it till the brim. For example, if I'm having Coke, which I know is unhealthy, and I take a bigger glass, I might fill it till the brim. But if I take a smaller glass and I still fill it till the brim, I end up consuming much lesser calories and much less sugar in the smaller glass. So this is one of the mindful strategies, and which very automatically helps you reduce the number of calories that you're having. So replace all bigger bowls, bigger spoons, big plates or glasses, and use smaller plates, which helps you cut down the portion size. Another thing is, eating slowly, because the brain takes time for it to signal to the stomach that it's full. So it's very important that while we are consuming our meals, we are first and foremost chewing slowly and consuming our meals slowly. And Japanese call this concept as hara hachibu, eating till you are 80% full. Now most of the clients ask, how would we come to know that we are 80% full? So for that, you have to eat slowly, so that you know that you're full and you need to stop eating. So this is one of the most important and interesting strategies, how you can lose weight in a very mindful manner. Now, the tip 9 says, of course, most of the times when we are trying to lose weight, we feel deprived, because we are told not to consume a lot of foods that we like eating, which is not the case. Eating mindfully does not mean that you stop eating all the foods that you like. You can reduce the frequency and the quantity of those foods, right? So, there is something known as that no food is bad food unless we are really exploiting the amount of quantities of it that we are having. So having a small piece of dark chocolate once in a while is not bad, but how much of dark chocolate or how much of chocolate you are having and how frequently you are having it will really determine the amount of calories you are consuming, right? So the tip is to not completely shun these foods, but reduce the quantity, and when you're really craving them, have a small piece and enjoy them occasionally rather than binging or having them on a regular basis, and ensure that these are within your daily calorie allowance, right? So you will end up gaining weight only when you are exceeding the calorie allowance. If the foods that you're consuming throughout the day are within how much you should be consuming as per your body type, as per your physical activity levels, if that is taken into consideration, you will not end up you know exceeding your calorie allowance. Now, a lot of users don't like being recommended on this, but cutting down alcohol is very important, because alcohol is basically empty calories. It's not adding any nutritional value to your meals. And basically, when one is consuming alcohol, there is also increased temptation of consuming fattening foods with it, right? So, a lot of people have either namkeen or some snacks along with consumption of alcoholic beverages. So this is something that is just adding unnecessary calories without really satiating you, or adding any nutritional value to your diet. So this is a very easy strategy. If you automatically cut down on the amount and the frequency of alcohol that you're consuming on a regular basis, very easily you will be able to contribute to weight loss. Lastly, the tip which is very important is planning your meals, right? So if we arbitrarily follow some strategy, or say, okay, from today onwards I plan to lose 4 kgs, we will not be able to do it, because like I said, we live in an environment where on a daily basis we are making 200 food related decisions which are mindless, right? So without even realizing, we are making so many food related decisions. So one of the important strategies is having your meals planned. When your breakfast is planned, when your lunch, when your dinner, all the meals for the entire week are planned, and you adhere to the planned diet, you will find it much easier, and you will end up consuming much lesser calories, even despite not adhering to the plan 100%. And that will definitely ensure that you lose weight. So when we don't have a plan, we are not able to meet our goals. This is with anything we are trying to achieve in life. When we have a plan in place, you will be able to achieve a goal in a more systematic manner, right? So This is one of the most important strategies. And with this, of course, I end that, these are the tips that you need to incorporate to eat mindfully and thereby, lose weight in a um, very proper manner rather than doing it haphazardly or uh, you know really losing your mind over trying to lose weight. So that is all from my end. um, the other thing I would like to draw your attention to is, like I said, why is a diet plan necessary? And here I would like to take you through what we at Dr. Trust 360 are doing. So this is one of our goals. We help you realize your health goals by planning diets for you. There are different diets for either weight management, hypertension management, diabetes, PCOD, and thyroid. Of course, all the strategies that I spoke about in weight loss management are what we are using in our weight program, and we counsel and um, encourage our users to use those strategies to lose their weight. There is a health assessment done systematically, followed by which the plan is given, and there is nutritional guidance and fitness advice as well. And you can get unlimited consults and customizations. So the entire process is that you select your plan, and once the payment is done, we schedule a call with the nutritionist, and the call helps us understand what your health goals are, what your dietary preferences are, based on which, within 48 hours of the consultation, we provide you with a customized diet plan. And all this is available on our Dr. Trust 360 app, which I would urge all of you to download if you haven't done already. You can begin your health journey, be it weight loss, diabetes, with the Dr. 360 diet plans. We give you a goal based diet plan. There is a calorie tracker, there is a health assessment. We provide you with nutritional guidance, unlimited consults, and customizations. And there are different plans for based on whether you would like to opt for a monthly plan, a 3-month plan, or a 6-month plan. And that's all from my end. I would like to address any questions that we might have. So, from the questions that I have got, there is one which asks that, are mangoes bad for health? So, no, mangoes are not bad for health. Like I mentioned, there is no food bad for health unless you are having processed foods. Mangoes are natural. So if you're having seasonal mangoes, they are not bad for health at all. In fact, they are rich source of carotene and uh, antioxidants, and they are very good. But like I said, it depends what is the frequency and what is the portion size that you're having. And they are high in calories, of course we know that, because they are sweet, right? For diabetes or somebody suffering from diabetes or diabetic patients, the intake needs to be regulated, because it can increase the blood glucose levels. So for each individual, it would vary the amount that they can have and the frequency which they can have, right? So, but to address your questions, mangoes are not bad for health at all. uh, okay, I've got the answers as well, and it's you know very good to know that all of you were interactive. So any other questions that we have, Himanshu? Okay, there is one more which says, are dates good to have, or it has lot of natural sugar? Again, dates are good. Like I said, it would depend on your health parameters, right? So if somebody has high blood sugar levels, I would not recommend them to have dates on a regular basis in higher quantities. But for somebody who is healthy, even if you're trying to lose weight, having dates occasionally is not bad, because they have a lot of other nutrients. So again, these goals have to be customized as per individual body requirements. And just to answer your question concisely, dates are not bad at all for your health. You can consume them, but again, depending on your health goals, or if you're suffering from any kind of disease condition, we need to take into consideration that. uh, can meat be increased in diet for weight loss? So there is no restriction on if you're asking for non-vegetarian foods, but red meat generally is not good for health. So when I say red meat, it means mutton and all your foods which are high in saturated fat. So meat, or generally poultry or animal foods, are higher in saturated fats as compared to the protein that you get from vegetarian sources. But we can definitely increase in the amount of chicken or fish, which we usually say is lean meat, right? It is not red meat. Chicken and fish are lower in calories and have lower amount of fat as compared to red meat, which would be your sausages or salami, ham, mutton, or prawns for that matter, which have high cholesterol. So again, it can be increased if that's your question, and we will have to choose the quality of meat that we are increasing, or the non-vegetarian sources that we are increasing. We will have to use lean sources of meat rather than using red meat. And the other question that I have is, how do you see keto diet for weight loss? So honestly, there are different opposing views to keto diets, and there is a lot of scientific evidence also available. But my personal view is, when you can use a hypocaloric diet, which means a, a diet which is less in calories and still is a balanced diet to meet your weight loss goals, why would you want to go for a restrictive diet? Because a keto diet shuns fruits and vegetables. There are a lot of restrictions in a keto diet for, you can't have certain fruits and vegetables. It is an extremely low carbohydrate diet. And if you look at research papers, it says that in the long run, the repercussions are quite bad, because our brain utilizes carbohydrate as a primary source of energy, right? So when you're depriving your brain of carbohydrate and switching to fat, which is basically, when we say keto, ketone bodies are the end result of fat metabolism breakdown, right? So what we are doing in a keto diet is we are switching over from carbohydrates to fat as a source of fuel for the body, right? So it is a very high fat diet, a moderate protein, and an extremely low carbohydrate diet. So, like I said, the long term repercussions, if you read, it might lead to weight loss. You might be seeing people around you losing weight being on a keto diet or a ketogenic diet. But in the long run, there is a lot of scientific evidence which says that it can lead to mental health problems, right? So, it can trigger problems like depression, anxiety, stress. And if you want, I can supply you with those resource materials if you would like to read. And again, going back to the point, like I said, a hypocaloric diet, or a diet which is low in calories, is equally beneficial for losing weight. So why would you want to go and follow a ketogenic diet, right? Again, whenever we prescribe diets, the first thing I tell the client or the user is, ask yourself, can you follow this diet for your entire life? Is it something that is sustainable? Anything that is not sustainable means you will give it up after a month, 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, and you will be back to where you were right at the start. So, um, it works for some, it works brilliantly. I would not say that it does not lead to weight loss, it does. Originally, ketogenic diets were designed for epileptic patients who had seizures, but nowadays the trend is to use them for weight loss, and they are showing results. But I would really put in a word of caution and tell you that if you can lose weight by the means of a balanced holistic diet, where you can consume all your fruits and vegetables, you can have all your healthy foods, I would not recommend a restrictive diet for keto. But again, it's a personal choice, so I would leave it at that. um, my views on intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is more of a lifestyle based diet, I would say. And if you see the Indian culture, we've always been into fasting, right? It's only now evidence-based studies have come up, and we've started really pointing evidence towards the fact that intermittent fasting works. Now, uh, I would say there is no harm in following intermittent fasting, but please do it under strict supervision. And a lot of people confuse, and in that window where they can eat, they end up eating a lot of junk, right? So that is something you should not do, because at the end of the day, you need good nutrition going into your body. And you cannot do that while you are in that 8 hour eating period. If you end up consuming junk in that period, you are not providing essential nutrients to your body. So intermittent fasting definitely works. Again, going back to, if you can follow it for a long period of time, if you feel it's sustainable and not a short stint to your weight loss goals, please go ahead. But otherwise, also, it has no harmful repercussions in the long term, and it is absolutely safe to follow intermittent fasting for weight loss. Um, is that all, or Himanshu, do we have more questions?
There is one last question from Kalpana.
Should we totally avoid gluten for weight loss? So, absolutely not. This is a myth. So, gluten is basically a part found in the protein which is present in wheat, right? So, if you see, you know, initially gluten free diets were only used for celiac patients. So, celiac patients cannot digest or break down gluten, right, which is present in wheat. So that is the reason that gluten free diets were started. And unless a physician, or you've been told that you have gluten sensitivity or gluten intolerance, like in the case of celiac patients, you do not need to avoid gluten at all. And for weight loss, it is not that you need to have a gluten free diet. You can be on gluten, you can have wheat, and still end up losing weight. So there is no should the correlation between having a gluten free diet and losing weight. What you should look at is the sources of carbohydrates, which is, like I said, not having simple carbohydrates in the form of maida, or like refined carbohydrates, rather having complex carbohydrates, having whole wheat flour or wheat flour with bran. And rice is not to be avoided for weight loss. You can absolutely be consuming rice and still be able to lose weight. Going back to the point, it is the amount of quantity that you're consuming, right, and the frequency you are having rice. Of course, brown rice has more fiber, but if you're having rice in limited quantities and not having it on a regular basis in every meal, there is no harm in having rice. So, absolutely, there is no reason for you to avoid gluten or rice to be able to lose weight. Yeah. So, that is all. Those are the questions that we had. Thank you so much for your patient listening. And thank you for joining us for the webinar. I would now like to hand over the session to Himanshu. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Chandni, for the wonderful session today. Thank you all for attending today. We have a wonderful offer for you guys, especially for all the attendees that are joined here today. We have a 15% coupon code that can be availed at DrTrust.in. Uh, the coupon code for the skip 15, and the links will be shared in the chat as well. We also have uh, we also have launched the Diet 360 plans currently for 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months with a discount of up to 33%. We'll urge you guys to directly go and visit our website. We'll be sharing the links soon on the chat as well. Also, all thank you all for joining for the webinar today. You can keep updated to the webinar by visiting our website and our social media channels as well. Thank you. Thank you all.